Okay, well, it looks like I'm live. Hopefully you can't hear my heating going, but if you can, sorry. Today, I want to explain the rules of the game Index Card RPG. It is a really cool game from Runehammer Games. He's a really amazing YouTuber in the RPG community, pumps out amazing products like this all the time. So, I'm planning on doing some test drives like I did with Mecha Hack with this video, or with this book, sorry. And so I figure in those ones, I thought like, oh, I'm not gonna explain the rules. I just wanna like show the system, but it's hard to, there's the heating. It's hard to show, like talk about a system if you don't have like a basic understanding of the rules. And so for this video, I'm going to explain the rules as briefly as I can, so that way when I make the future test drive videos, I can just link back to this one. So yeah, Index Card RPG is essentially Runehammer's house rules for Dungeons and Dragons. It's very similar. It's like a D20 based, uses the 6 core stats, and everything like that. So if you're familiar with D&D, this should be a pretty easy system to pick up. So the first rule that's different about it is that things always happen in turns. So everyone at the table, every time you start a new scene, rolls their d20s, and whoever gets the highest goes first. And then it just goes clockwise around the table. And that's pretty good. I like the elegance of that, the fact that, it just goes around the table. You don't have to keep track of initiative all the time. That's really kind of burdensome and hard to do and kind of annoying. I don't love standard initiative in D&D, and so I like this system of just whoever goes first is who gets the highest, and then it's just clockwise after that. So that's really nice. Let's see. So there's 3 kinds of actions. It's really similar to D&D. You basically have a movement and an action. And so you can choose not to move and use your action. You can move and move near. It's got 3 movement tiers, which are, rather than having like 30 feet, 10 feet, whatever, like in D&D, it's abstracted. And so you've got close, near, far, and out of range. So close is something that your character can like reach within their fingers. Like a sword battle would happen in a close range. Then there's near, which is like if the character could take like a couple steps and then get there, that's near. That might be like the range of like, a spear or something like that. And then there is far, which to move far, you have to use your whole turn for it. You're essentially moving and then using your action to move again, exactly like D&D. But the distance is far, which is roughly twice as much as near, and it's like as far as a bow could shoot or something like that. And then past far is just out of range. Yeah, so that's the movement and the actions, very similar to D&D. There are 3 kinds of actions, and this is where ICRPG differs pretty heavily from, well, not super heavily, but it differs from Dungeons & Dragons in a significant way, I guess. So first is a simple action, which is, pull the sword off your belt, open the door, press the button, just like stuff that doesn't need a roll, that there's no uncertainty of whether you'll be able to do it or not. And so that doesn't require any rolls, you just do it. There's checks, which is like your standard D&D stuff, where you roll your d20, and then you add your stats. It uses the same stats as D&D: strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. I've got a character sheet with me that I can show you what it looks like. So this is what the character sheet looks like. Much more simple than the D&D character sheet. You can see, here's your stats, and you just have rather than having ability scores and then modifiers, it's just the modifiers, which makes it a lot cleaner, I think. Much less unnecessary math, I think. So So your stats are all different modifiers. The lowest is +0, highest is +8 or something. I don't know. So the sample character has a strength of 3. So to make a strength check, the DM, the guy's like, I want to knock down the door or whatever. The DM's like, okay, roll me a strength check. So the guy would take his D20. I got a 16, it's pretty good. And then add his strength stat, which is +3, and that would give him 6, that's 19 total. 16 plus 3, 19. And you compare that to something called the target. And in every scene, there's one number called the target. And let's say it's 12. That might be backwards, but 12. Everything in that scene has a difficulty of 12. So whether you're knocking down a door, jumping over a river, punching a guy in the head, whatever, all of that will have a difficulty of 12. And so it's really elegant. You don't have to come up with stuff all the time as the GM. And as the players, you just, like the DM will say, the DC, the target for this scene is 12. And you already know, I need to roll at least a 12 or higher in order to succeed in my action. And so with a 19 roll, the guy would definitely succeed at knocking down the door. There's also something called effort, which is one of my favorite parts of Index Card RPG. And the idea is that effort, or it's called attempts, sorry. So the third type of action is called an attempt, and it uses a mechanic called effort. And the idea is that attempts are like checks, but they're multi-step. So let's say, rather than just busting open the door, our character wanted to cut through the door, but it's like a thick door. That might be an attempt. So what the player would do is we'll use our character, Albrecht Vandermeer is the name of the character we got here. Albrecht wants to cut through the door, so he'll roll, and the DC is 12. So he rolled a 4 plus 3, so he failed. But let's say he rolled an 11 plus 3, that's 14, so he would succeed, and then he rolls effort. 4 attempts, your GM will tell you how many hearts something has, basically. And hearts represent 10 points. So a monster with 2 hearts, for example, has 20 hit points, and you need to do 20 damage in order to defeat that monster. And a door with 2 hearts means you have to do 20 points of effort in order to cut it down. And there are, let's see, so there's different types of effort. So there's basic effort, There's basic effort, which you use a D4. So in order to do 10 HP, I would have to succeed, at least 3 times, get a 4, and at least a 2 or something like that in order to achieve that 1 heart of effort. So there's basic, which is either using your hands or just your wits. There's weapons and tools. You use a D6, your standard classic die. Guns use a D8. Magic and energy uses a D10. And then there's something called ultimate, which you can get from rolling an nat 20, or certain abilities will give you ultimate. And when you roll the nat 20, you roll, so let's say he was cutting down the door, it's got 1 heart, so he has to do 10 points of effort in order to successfully chop through the door. So he rolls his D20, he gets a 20, he gets to do his normal effort, his weapon effort, which is 6, and then he gets to add ultimate effort, which is 3. So he crashes through it. He'd only have to do 1 more point of effort on his next turn in order to successfully cut through the door. So it's essentially using the combat mechanic of, normal, D&D, and applying that to anything to make it a multi-step process. And I think that's a really, really good system. I hope that it made sense. I hope that that's clear how I explained it. But it's basically, when you make an attempt, it's a multi-step check, and first you have to roll to see if you succeed, and then if you succeed, you could roll your effort and compare that to the number of hearts it has. And hearts are worth 10 points each. So 2 hearts, you need to do 20 points of effort rolled over, a couple turns or whatever. So that's the attempts. And I think that's honestly one of my favorite parts of Index Card RPG. Just like so simple but well designed. So good. Okay, another thing to know about the target number for every scene is, let's use the example of 12 again. There are certain times when the GM or an ability will tell you that a roll is either easy or hard. Easy means that for that check, the target is lowered by 3. So it would be 9 in our example. You'd only have to roll a 9 or higher in order to succeed. And if it's hard, then it's increased by 3. So it'd be up to 15. And so let's say the door was like old and rotten and you wanted to chop through it. The DM might say, okay, this roll, it's got you need to do 1 heart of effort and it's easy. So that means you have to only roll a 9. Or if it was like reinforced with iron bars, that might be hard if it's possible at all. So that's another, just really easy. It's really intuitive. If it's easy, easier. If it's hard, it's harder. Boom. Well done, Runehammer Games. So, yep, let's see. Okay, time is really simple in Index Card RPG. It's basically, you've got your turn, which, you can do one of those 3 actions: action, move near an action, or move far. And it represents about 10 to 20 seconds of in-game time, if that's relevant. And then there's also rounds, which once everyone at the table has taken a turn, that's 1 round. And there's certain like spells and stuff that have like durations in rounds. So it's like, this will last 2 rounds. That means 2 times around the table, basically. Very similar like board games. Your turn is your turn. A round is once everyone's taken a turn. And there's also, a round is like about 1 minute of in-game time if you're keeping track of time. Another thing that's pretty different with your character is what happens when you drop to 0 hit points. So when you drop to 0 hit points, on your next turn, you roll a d4. And that's called rolling for dying. So let's see what we get. 3. Okay, so we roll the 3 on the d4. And that means that in 3 turns, if we don't get healed by a party member or some other sort of like outside intervention, we'll die. We're like bleeding out, basically, is the idea. And you've got that many turns until you're dead. And every turn while you're dying, each of those 3 turns, you get to roll the d20. And if you roll a natural 20, I got a 4, a 13, and a 19. Oh, so close. If I would have rolled a natural 20 on one of my dying turns, then that's called rolling a miracle. And you just instantly pop back up with 1 HP. And so it's like a way to get back in the fight and just kind of test your luck. But you have to get a nat 20. So most of the time that won't happen. So in order to stop dying, usually you have to have a different party member run over to you and do what's called, "Don't die on me, man!" And what they do is they roll a check based on the scene's target. So let's say the scene's target is still 12, and they either roll intelligence or wisdom, whichever one they want. In this case, my character has a +1 in intelligence and a +0 in wisdom, so we'll roll intelligence. So if my guy was trying to heal his friend, they get a 5 + 1 is 6, so that would be a failure. But had I got, like a 13, that would have been 14, so I would have succeeded. And then that person is stabilized, and they don't, like, dying ends, basically. They're stabilized, but they're still unconscious. So that's, yeah. There's one exception to this rule, which is if you get to -20 hit points, like if most characters only have 1 heart of HP, and if you, like player characters, so if you take like 30 damage in 1 blow, you get hit with a meteor or something, and you get reduced to 20 HP, you're blown to bits, and there's no dying, there's no "don't die on me," there's no miracles, you're just dead. Like in the story, there's like not even enough to recover. Like there's nothing to bury. You're like obliterated. So that's the idea behind blown to bits. So don't reach negative 20 HP. Yeah, each turn, roll for dying, d20. Yeah, so either you can get yourself back up if you roll that natural 20 on your turn, or an ally can get you back up if they succeed on either an intelligence check or a wisdom check. But there are ways to regain HP besides just rolling a miracle while you're dying. There's a recover action that you can take where you use your action on your turn, and you don't use any movement. So this is like an action only action. You can't move. You just like pause, catch your breath, basically is what's happening in the story. And then you roll. Nice, I got a 14. So you roll the d20, and then you add your constitution modifier. My constitution modifier is +2. So that would be 16. And I beat the target, which was 12. And since I succeeded, I get to add my con modifier +1 HP. So I would have regained 3 hit points. So you're like taking a breather, and it like recharges a little bit of HP on your turn. There's also like healing magic, and remember magic has an effort die of d10. So when someone is trying to heal you with like a magic spell, they would roll the d10. Yeah, I got a 2, so you would regain 2 hit points. And if you're using a med kit or like bandages or whatever, that would be a tool, which would use a d6. And so I would have regained 3 hit points with that. And so you can kind of see how the effort system extends. And it's applicable in everything. It's like when you're rolling an attempt, when you're doing damage, it's like anytime you're using a sword to accomplish something, if you succeed, you roll the d6. Or anytime you're using magic to accomplish something, if you succeed, you roll the d10. So that's really simple. I really like that. Okay. And the last rule is the hero coin. This is very similar to inspiration from D&D. I have a little representation right here, the hero coin. And the idea is that you do something cool, and the DM gives you a hero coin for it. And you can only have one at a time. You're not allowed to hoard them. So you want to just like spend them a bunch so you can have space for them. And there's 3 ways that you can spend the hero coin. You can use it to re-roll any die roll. You can use it to add d12 to any die roll, essentially making it like ultimate, basically. And you can give it to another player at any time. So if someone is on their last turn and they're dying and they fail the last roll, you can be like, oh man, hero coin, re-roll your miracle or whatever. See if you have a chance to roll that nat 20. Or if you missed an attack, or you're gonna fall into a ledge or off a cliff or whatever, boom, spend that hero coin, re-roll the die, or add d12 to it in case you really want it to succeed in the first place. So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool ways to use the hero coin. A neat little way for the GM to reward the players for doing cool stuff. So that's basically all of the rules for this game. It's pretty simple. Everything else is the same as D&D. I might go over, when I do the character creation test drive video, I'll go more into depth of what the character sheet has on it and what the different abilities and stuff are. But those are the basic rules. If you understand those, then you've got pretty much everything you need to play or maybe even run Index Card RPG. Something that's nice is that there's a free quick start that's like 200 or like 150 or like something like insane. Like it's I've got the full book, but the online quick start is like this much of the book. It's like so much. It's like everything up until the worlds, I think. It might not have the monsters either, but like it's got all the GM guides, which this game is like famous for its like tips and guides and stuff. It's got really, really good advice. I've skimmed through it, and this is all GM advice right there, and this is all like the rules and the character stuff. So it's like basically almost the same size, and all of this is like monsters and loot items and worlds that you can play in and stuff like that. There's 5 different worlds that come with Index Card RPG. There's Alfheim, which is like your standard fantasy. There's Warpshell, which is sci-fi. There's Ghost Mountain, which is like kind of spooky, like Weird West, like a Western fantasy almost. There's Vigilante City, which is superheroes, and then there's Blood and Snow, which is like no magic, prehistoric kind of people. There might be a little bit of magic, but I don't think so. I think you're just like a prehistoric hunter-gatherer Ice Age person. So really cool. It like this. Another thing is like not only is there like a huge portion of the book that's free online, but this physical book and the PDF together were like $20 or something like that. Like maybe a little bit more, maybe like $25, but still like this whole book plus the PDF for pretty, I think it was more like $20. Really, really good. I bought it like as soon as I could because it's so well done. Like just a great system, really easy to learn, really easy to get new players on. It's got some really good innovations on the D&D mechanics that make it like much faster, much easier to pick up, much quicker paced. And yeah, it's a great system. So if you haven't checked it out, I definitely recommend it. Once this video is like actually posted, because it's live right now, but once it's actually posted, I'll add some links in the description where you can find this book if you're interested, both the quick start and the physical copy. So yeah, that's everything. If you have any questions, ask them down below. But until next time, ciao.